I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Dana Point, California at the Doheny Wood Car Show. This is a great car show. It happens every year. This year there are about 300 cars that have wood all over them. Of course, a lot of station wagons that you think of when you think of Woodies, but there are some other cars here too that are a bit unusual. So we are going to do what we do every week. We're going to hear some great music. We're going to meet some nice people and see some great cars. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Dwight Barry, your car just leapt out at me. There are 300 cars here today, Woodies, and the color of this car really got to me. So tell us about the car and the color.
Well, color's a mint green, like ice cream. And we've had the car now for 12 years. And we just love the color. When we first started looking for a Woody, we fell in love with the color ourselves.
A 49 Ford Woody is pretty much, close to the epitome of a Woody, I would say. Is that why you bought it, or you just liked it?
Well, we originally started looking at, when we looked at the vehicles, we looked at the, from 42 through 46, but, the 49, 50, and 51 is when they went to what they call the shoebox Woody, and it had more room in it, and we just thought that was a better fit for us.
The Woody culture, subculture, it looks really laid back and comfortable and Jimmy Buffett-ish and very casual. What have you discovered when you bought a Woody?
You can't meet better people than the people that own Woodies and being involved with the clubs that we belong with. They're just a great group of people and willing to help at any time.
So this has a flathead in it, or you have the 6? What do you got going on here?
It has the original V8 flathead with an overdrive on it.
And that's plenty of power for this?
Absolutely. We can put it in the overdrive and get up on the freeway and kind of get over in the right lane, and it'll go 60, 65, so it's not bad.
What kind of reaction do you get from kids?
Oh, it's amazing when people every time you go anywhere waving at you, honking at you, especially on the freeway. Like the other day, we went out, actually we took our youngest daughter and her husband to dinner, and got people hanging out the window taking pictures of it on the freeway. So it's pretty interesting.
Some of the Woodies here are very customized. There's a couple of ones that even have chop tops, and some of them are dropped and wheels and all, and this looks like the way Henry meant it to look.
That's an original. I mean, there's a couple modifications from the guy that I bought it from. They didn't put some wing nuts on it and some different things, but majority of it's original.
Somebody's out there thinking about buying a Woody. What are you going to tell them? What's the advice?
Buy one, don't build one. It's way too much work.
I have a neighbor that just spent $88,000 restoring just the wood on his 48 Chev Woody.
I think probably the wood's probably like $30,000 just by itself these days, yeah.
Just for the wood itself?
For the wood alone.
Yeah. Well, Dwight, thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show. This is a car that you can be very proud of.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
David Holmes, a 47 Merc Woody 4x4. I've never seen one before. Tell us about this.
Well, this was originally made for a bird photographer, a naturalist originally back in 47. And he used it for going all over Southwest U.S. taking pictures of birds. So he needed something with this kind of capability, extra gas tank, four-wheel drive, camperized, and just heavy duty for all the stuff he needed to do.
Do you get a lot of people going by and going, wow, I didn't know they made a 4x4?
Yeah, that's what the fun of it is, bringing it out for people who've never seen something like this.
And you have louvers in the hood. What kind of secrets you got hiding under there?
Well, they put a Chevy motor in here back in the early 60s to, that wasn't a hot rod, it's just replacing the tired old flathead. Because if you're going out in the desert and something like that, you're low speed, high RPMs, hot, the flathead's not going to last that long, especially loaded down the way this one was. So that's when the louver hood went in also.
Okay. So the Chev motor is still in there?
Yep.
How about the rest of it?
The rest of it's original.
So made it up just fine to the rear and transmission?
Well, it's got all antique stuff behind that Chevy in there, and it's stock stuff. I mean, I've broken a rear axle, but that's going to happen. You're not speed shifting it because it's not a synchronized transmission, but it's got a lot more torque than it originally had.
You have some pretty interesting things going on inside of this vehicle. Tell us about it.
All right, it was outfitted for camping by the Coachcraft Company of Hollywood in the early 50s for the original owner. It's got a cork-insulated ice box, got a water tank. It's got a little button under the dash where you can get water pumped out under there. It's got an exit for the water in the back, another gas tank, roof's all reinforced, equipped for what it had to do.
The fitting under the dash that puts out water, does it ever put out anything else?
Well, it could. The first thing a buddy of mine wanted to know is how much vodka will that thing hold.
Well, I wonder how much would be in there when we finish taping today.
That's a good question, too. It's a state park.
Oh. All right, we won't tell anybody. It is, it's very nice. It's unusual because it's a 4x4. It's got the great rack on the top. Was it this kind of condition when you got it, or was it a long restoration?
It was not beat up and destroyed. It was all there, but all needed doing. It was in pretty decent shape for something that you wanted to restore. Because the guy that had this, he was kind of wealthy and he took care of it and just used it for his trips.
Any good stories that you got from him as far as where this has been or what it's done?
Oh, it's been all over the place. I mean, his ex-wife told me that he used to go up cliffs taking pictures of like a condor nest or something just hanging off the edge in the middle of nowhere.
Well, it is an absolutely beautiful example. David, thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show, and you can be proud of this one.
Oh, I am. I can't stop looking at it either.
Jim Grace, I'm walking along the show here. I see your vehicle. At first I go, oh, and then I go, oh, they didn't make these, or did they?
Yeah. Well, frankly, a lot of people think that, other than the guys that really know the history of the Ford Woodies. But this is built on a Ford F1 truck chassis panel truck that was sitting in my driveway, and I had just sold a Woody, and I'm sitting there thinking what I'm going to do for another one, and this is number 19. And I saw the panel truck, and I started looking at it, and I said, well, I could do this and do that and maybe make a Woody out of the panel truck. So I went out with some blue tape and kind of taped out where things should be, and it proportionately looked great. And I thought, okay, this is what we're going to do. So with the help of some friends of mine that does metal work, I talked to him and we did a rendition to get the perspective of what it was going to look like. And then we started in, we cut the sides out and built all metal supports, and we proceeded to build a Woody, a 4-door Woody from a 2-door panel truck. And from there I went to another friend of mine who is not a woodworker by trade, but very much a perfectionist. And I said, Mark, this is what I want to do, can you do it? And he said, we'll try. So him and I worked on the wood, the front door to start with, and of course I wanted to use maple wood. So we bought maple wood and we started making this door. Well, after the third chunk of maple wood, I thought, this ain't gonna work either. So we got some MDF wood, cheap wood, and started building the door and the panels, and found out that there's no flat pieces. Everything's a parabolic curve up and down, and we really got ourselves into a project.
Once you got on the roll of doing it, was it a situation of, okay, this is going together just fine, or were you pulling your hair out from beginning to end of the project?
No, frankly, Mark's got the patience, and he can do anything he wants if he wants to do it. And so he worked more than I did on it to get things to fit right. And a couple of things that, like the rear doors now are suicide doors. Originally they weren't, but we couldn't hinge it to open, so then he said, well, we'll flip it, we'll make suicide doors, and it worked fine. And
so this is a big deal.
Oh, it was, it was a big deal, but it was just a challenge for both of us.
Nice job of, it's a custom, but nice job of making something that looked like Henry wanted it to look, rather than that's a customized car.
Yeah. Well, we used all the original mechanisms for the doors, the door handles and hinges, everything we could that was original. The seats are pickup F1 pickup seats for this year, front and rear, and the challenge was to make it look like Henry Ford built it, or would have built it.
What's the running gear on it?
Right now it has a 306-cylinder engine, C4 transmission, 9-inch Ford Mustang front end, disc brakes, power steering. Originally we had a 327 Chevy with a 700 R4 transmission, and after a couple of years I thought, it should have a Ford motor. So I took the Chevy out and put a Ford in it.
So you're the first guy in history to take a Ford with a Chev motor in it and pull the Chev motor out, put the Ford back in it.
6-cylinder, yeah. Yeah, but I don't do things that everybody else does.
Well, you're right up there with a buddy of mine that took the V8 out of his 55 Ford and put a 6-cylinder from a bus in it.
Well, I have a 66 pickup with the same engine, and I was really sold on them. And the 1952 Ford was the first year that they made an overhead valve 6-cylinder, the very first year. So I thought, well, I'll do an overhead valve 6-cylinder, but I'll get a later model, a 300 cubic inch, so it's got plenty of horsepower.
You have Sea Country script on it. What's that about?
Well, I had to name it, put a name on it, and I looked through on eBay all kinds of scripts from all kinds of cars, and I had the country sedan script, and I got to looking at it, and I thought, well, if I cut this off and cut that off and switched them around, it would become Sea Country, which I thought was an appropriate name for where it is and what it looks like.
Well, you did an excellent job naming the car. You did an excellent job building it. So, Jim, Grace, thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show.
Thank you for your interest.
You betcha. And beautiful, just
Thank
beautiful.
You. Thank you.
Greg Vaughn, I wanted to see some cars at the show here that weren't just all Fords and Mercurys, and your 39 Plymouth just is really striking. Tell us about it.
Well, it's not actually mine. It's a family car. My grandfather actually purchased it new in December 1938. and the family lived in France. He taught art. He needed a wagon to transport his students, so they shipped it to France. And when World War II broke out, they fled the country, and we were able to ship the car back with what they could in the car, and lived in New York for a little while, and then they decided to move to Laguna Beach here in California, and the car's been in our family ever since.
Oh, what a history. You can't ever get rid of this. Your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids have to own this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's a family car. It's not going anywhere.
Was there a long restoration process, or was it done by the time it got to you? Or
Well, my dad started doing the restoration in 2001, I believe it was, and by 2010 we finally finished it. So yeah, it was a few years involved.
so it was a father-son project?
It was a family project. Yeah, he's the one that started it. So I mean, it was already in pretty good shape when we started. So we just wanted to have a legacy in our family to pass on through generations. So we decided to redo the entire car.
I recently sold a restored, gorgeous 40 Plymouth Coupe and loved the car, but one of the reasons I got rid of it is it drove just like a 40 Plymouth. What do we got going on with this one?
It's not a handler. There's no camber in the tires. It drifts down the road. It's got 83 massive horsepower under the hood. It's the original engine, and I can top 50 from time to time.
I don't know that I've ever seen a 39 Plymouth Woody. Have you run across any of them? Are they extremely rare, I would imagine?
They're fairly rare. Actually, there was one that was here today that's been around for a while, except it was the export model. And I think they made less than 1,800 of these total, and about 100 of the export models. And the export model was on a different frame than this one. Now, as far as like this particular car goes, I believe there's 4 in existence that we know of.
Do you have people come by and just shocked that it's not a Ford, it's a Plymouth?
They like that because, the Woody market's pretty much dominated by those brands. So there's a few of us that are different. And I just love the lines of the Plymouth.
So it's got the stock flathead in it.
It does. It does.
Is there a French group equivalent to the Beach Boys?
Not that I'm aware of.
It would be perfect.
It would be, yeah.
All right. Well, Greg, thank you very much. It's a beautiful car, and it's different. Congratulations on that, and thanks for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show.
We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Gary Clark, we have had such a good time here today. A lot of great cars, a lot of nice people. How did this show come about, and what's your involvement with it?
Well, we go back about 17 years, and this is one of the more iconic of the Woody shows because you're straight on the sand. We've had others up and down the coast. Every month from April on is a Woody event somewhere up and down the coast. So it culminates with the big one down in Encinitas is Wave Crest, and I'm sure most of you have heard of that. But this event here is one of them that really touches my heart. I live here in town. We helped put this together initially, and the SoCal Woody Club, and Doheny Wood became our event put on by the SoCal Woody Club for the rest of the clubs. So every year, each club gets together and puts something like this on, and it's a lot of work but a lot of fun. And look we're out here in the sun. We've got the beautiful Pacific Ocean at our back. How could it be better?
Yeah. What would make it better is, since we're done shooting now, this is the last thing we're shooting here. If somebody played some Jimmy Buffett music and somebody offered me a margarita, it would make the day just perfect.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, isn't it?
Well, thank you very much, Gary. It is such a pleasure to be here. And thank you very much for watching the show. If you don't watch the show, we don't have a show. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye.